As of this moment, I have logged exactly 1086.75 hours of progress on my indie game, Clean Up on Isle Goblin. To give some perspective, if this were my full-time job and I did it 8 hours a day, it would have taken 135 days to get to this point, which is about half a year of full-time work. But since I can only work on it on my off time, this was all completed over the course of 332 days. So essentially every 60 minutes of engineering work was matched with 34 minutes of game work. That was a lot of numbers, and I've got more numbers, like my wishlist count, that I'd like to discuss at the end of the video. But at this point, I'd like to take a step back and analyze everything that's been done so far, and see if it has been worth the effort. Maybe my time would have been better spent doing something else. Maybe I should have been working out, or learning violin, or I don't know, going back to school and getting a master's degree to further progress my actual job. So let's start with a rapid-fire overview of where the game is at to see what kind of progress we've made so far, and then see if it was all worth it. These changes are all well documented in the previous videos, but I'll do a quick summary for those who haven't watched all of them. The game currently has a grid-based movement system that supports any size of creature in this turn-based fashion, a fully functional livestock system, a fully functional crop system, a unique fishing minigame, a pathfinding system, dynamic shadows and lighting, a fully functional dialogue system, a cutscene system, a relationship system, a skill system, an input system that can support any controller, a shop system, a crafting system, a season system, an object placement system. You can accept quests and complete them for rewards. There's a music system, a death and respawn system, a sleep system, a relic system, and finally a mail system. Wow, that was a lot more junk than I thought, and that doesn't even cover the stuff that I got done this month. And hey, we can't skip over that, so to start, I added a special ability system. I thought it would be interesting to have special magic abilities, similar to, I don't know, ultimates in Overwatch that you can use rarely if you're in a pickle. Maybe a lightning blast that deals some damage to all nearby foes, or something that heals you a lot. You'll have to prep before an encounter and figure out which spell you're going to need depending on the challenge you're about to face. You'll have an MP bar that shows your current spell slots, and you'll be able to change up which spell you have equipped whenever you're back home. But the problem is, regular old spells are kind of boring. I was going to do a spell book you eventually get that you can visit in your house to change which spell you memorize for the day, but that seems so non-goblin-y. It reeked of generic fantasy with no goblin flavor, so I decided to lean in a different direction. I've been itching for a way to implement tattoos for a while. It goes closely with the theme of the goblins being rejected by the humans at face value. I think a lot of times people look at tattoos and assume less of a person because of them, just like our poor goblin friends. So it was only fitting to give them magic-imbued tattoos that can be used a couple times a day. I first made this prototype tattoo design, and I'll admit I literally googled lightning tattoo and drew the first thing I found, but it's just a placeholder. I then made this menu art where you can see it previewed on you and get a brief description of what it does. Here it is in action. Pretend this cauldron is a cool NPC at a tattoo machine in an artsy looking shop. You can walk up and select a tattoo. When you confirm it, it'll make it so you can hit Q and activate the spell. You can see when I'm near these enemies that I hit Q and a lightning bolt comes down and strikes from above. It's super easy for me to make new spells since I tried to make it as expandable as possible, so it's all ready for me to start implementing all sorts of different tattoo designs. My only regret is that it's kind of impossible to show them on the little character's arms, but I guess that's just a limitation of the art style. Oh well, I still think it's fun. For the next change on the list, I knew I wanted to add some sort of map system. I thought long and hard about how to do it, and I think the result is pretty cool. Our pathfinding system already saves an array of whether each spot is walkable or not, so I made the map, whenever you open it, request all of those arrays. It then makes what's called a render texture, which is kind of like a blank canvas, and replaces the pixels all over depending on what's in those arrays. If a spot is walkable, it makes it one color. If it's not walkable, it makes it a different color. Once I got this working, I knew it was feasible and made some user interface art for it. I of course made it look like a little map and put it in the game. You can see the little goblin icon indicates where the player currently is, and you can also select which floor you'd like to look at. I made it so different rooms can have different color schemes that are easily set here in the inspector, and if you click on each room it'll give you more information. It'll show any points of interest in the scene, which it'll detect automatically. If the mouse is hovered over them, it'll display some info as well. There's a lot going on behind the scenes here, but honestly I could talk about these maps for hours if you'd let me, so it's probably best to move on to the next thing, the weather system. I knew we'd want different weather on the island, so I started by making this little raindrop animation. I then did some monkeying with Unity's particle system and have the rain all pour down at the right angle and speed. I also made these little clouds on a different particle system that flow across the screen to make it look sort of foggy. Unity makes this really easy by allowing me to have hundreds and hundreds of little raindrops and clouds without taking up a lot of computing resources, which is super nice. Next, I made it so each day there was a random chance of rain, depending on the season, and well, here you can see the results. The area is made darker by modifying my lighting script, and the rain comes pouring down. I then went ahead and did something similar with snow in the winter, which you can see here. Since I've stared at this same stupid little zone for 1,000 hours now, I've fallen in love with any drastic change to scenery, so Let me know in the comments below or Discord if you think it's too excessive with all the clouds, but for now I'm a big fan, and each time it rains I like to just splash around and look at everything. So after creating the concept of weather, the next thing I did was take my old music system and throw it in the garbage. Was it awful? Not really. Was it not working? No, it worked fine. But a wonderful person in the Discord told me to check out Fmod, and after watching some videos and giving it a shot, I don't know how I survived without it. To give some background, Unity, the game engine I'm using, does not handle music all too well. You can play a song or sound, but that's kinda all it really supports. If you want to fade between songs, you have to manually lower the volume of one with code and increase the volume of the other. If you want to have music that changes based on how many enemies are around, it gets more complicated. And what if you want different sounds based on different weather conditions? Your code quickly turns into a mushy pile of spaghetti. So in comes Fmod, which I'm obligated to say is not sponsoring this video. There's actually a lot going on here that I don't want to waste time going over, but I'll show you the end result. Basically, in Unity, I could play this event here, which is called Spring Theme, and then I can change these variables here, combat level and current weather. Changing these variables fades between different sounds and filters, so I'll just let you listen while I mess with them and you can get a sense of what they do. You could hear that as I increased the combat level, it changed the music to the combat track, which of course is still temporary, and I changed the weather to rain. It muffled the audio with a low pass filter and added a rain sound. Mike, who's in charge of audio, can now directly mess with how the game sounds without having to touch my precious C# scripts, kind of providing a bridge between our two worlds. So now we're all caught up to the present. I've spent 1,000 hours and have completed what I've been calling Phase 1. My plan was to get all these core background systems done before I mass implemented content, so that's the next phase. I'm now going to start filling this world with different characters, creatures, items, and enemies, and make a demo that I can send to playtesters. I've spent the past few weeks slowly filling out a lore bible of backstory, history, and characters that I'll be ready to dump into the game. I've been drawing up maps, figuring out what different areas there will be, and what the main gameplay loop will actually end up looking like. So the question is, has it all been worth it? I think I'd like to break that up into two separate questions. Has it been worth it for me personally, and has it been worth it for me financially based on how much time I've pumped in? For me personally, I think now that I've started down this path, I can't really see myself doing anything else. I love creating a little world, I love creating all these systems that bring it to life, and I love sharing the process with everyone. It's the perfect hobby for me, and I really do plan on making a career out of it one way or another after spending all this time. I get to draw, write, code, and make fun videos, and manage a little business and product. I truly believe game dev is the culmination of all the fun stuff I love. I think I have what it takes to make this thing fun, and even if it doesn't reach a lot of people, I just hope that those who do play it have a good time. So yes, it has been worth it in terms of usage of spare time. That said, I also think it's important to look at the financial side of things. Would I be upset if this game was a total flop? Sure. So far I've pumped about $3,000 into it for legal fees and some assets and such. It would be a big bummer to not even make that back, but I'm pretty optimistic that it'll do okay. Out of pure transparency, I'd like to give the other developers out there some insight into where I'm at in terms of following and wishlists, and what my thought process is for the future. First off, the wishlists. This is a great metric for indicating game success, and people say having 10,000 is the minimum magic number to get picked up by the Steam algorithm. Right now, I'm at 1,677 wishlists. This is with posting monthly devlogs, weekly drawings, and weekly video clips of progress. You can see my highest spike in wishlist was here on December 7th, which was when my Stardew Valley drawing got into the front page of Reddit. Everything else is tiny little trickles as my random drawings appeal to random people across the internet. So stepping back, the wishlist number comes off as a bit low. Almost a year of development and we only have 16.77% of wishlists that we desire. Also, 44,000 upvotes on Reddit, but only 227 wishlists? What's up with that? Well, this seemed discouraging, but the game is still early in production. I didn't even have a website when that post went live, and since it was all just a fan art post for a different game, we can't really expect there to be a ton of overlap. There are also a bunch of systems in our game now, like farming and ranching, but almost no content. The Steam screenshots have some variety, but ultimately lack life. My plan, now that Phase 1 is complete, is to complete and fully polish the first hour or so of gameplay. I'm hoping once I can get that in front of streamers, YouTubers, and the press, I'll be able to rake in more wishlists. I also think entering in game competitions and Steam events will be a big boost, and I'm hoping that'll give a lot of exposure. Ultimately, we've got a long way to go, but I'm not too discouraged by where we're at. I'm fully prepared for another 1,000, 2,000, or even 3,000 hours that it'll take to get this thing ready. But yeah, I'm hoping this information was helpful to other developers and interesting to anyone else. I thought it would be good to show the marketing side of things instead of just the technical side. Everyone seems to think that if you have a good game, it'll market itself, but unfortunately that just isn't true. It takes a lot of work and time to stand out from all the games on Steam. I dedicate a lot of time to the various social media outlets to help get the word out, but luckily I find it a lot of fun to make these devlogs, do the weekly drawings, and make stupid little TikTok videos, so it's my pleasure. So hey, speaking of Steam, feel free to head on over and hit that wishlist button to get notified when this thing finally releases. If you like the video, well, you know what to do, just hit all the buttons. Thanks again for dropping by, and I'll see you next time.